Club, where we learn and grow as entrepreneurs. And if there are any guests, we invite you to sit back, listen, relax, and see what we have to offer. Yet on another exciting start, an exciting topic, and I hand over to the man who's passionate for Toastmasters, our Toastmaster of the Abhijeet Joshi.
Thank you so much, Frederica. Our today's theme is communicating like a leader. And this morning I was thinking about, okay, what are the 3 things that are required when I'm communicating like a leader? And then 3 C's came to my mind. And today I'm going to share those 3 C's. First thing, whenever you are a leader, the first and the most important thing is C for compassion. If you cannot have compassion, you cannot be a leader. So C for compassion. Last week, one of my fellow Toastmasters was asking me, how do I communicate? I said, you need to be compassionate. If you are compassionate, you will make the difference. The second C, and the most important, is connection. When you're communicating, always talk in such a way that you are creating a connection. So C for connection. And the third and the most important is C for composure. As a leader, we always have to maintain our composure. We have to maintain our center. And that is very important, because as soon as we lose our center, then we are not able to communicate. Sometimes taking a time out is a good way to maintain our composure. So remember, if you want to communicate like a leader, remember these 3 C's. C for compassion, C for connection, and C for composure. Today we have an exciting session by Ramesh. Before I introduce him, let me call upon his evaluator, Raghunatha, to share the purpose of his professional speech. Raghunatha, Raju.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster of the day. DTM Ramesh is attempting his level 5 project from Innovative Planning Pathway. The project is Prepare to Speak Professionally. The purpose of this project is for the member to practice developing and presenting a longer speech. The speech length is 18 to 22 minutes. Timer, please note. Title of is communicating like a leader. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Raghunatha. Ramesh is a founder and CEO of Quantum Vision Consulting. He's a certified John Maxwell trainer, speaker, and a coach. He has over 30 years of professional experience in engineering and marketing. He received his MBA from the University of California, Berkeley. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster, Ramesh. Communicating like a leader. Communicating like a leader, Ramesh.
Thank you so much. May I share the screen?
Yes.
Could you enable screen sharing, please?
Done.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for attending this talk today. I was really working very hard as an engineer throughout my career, but there were times where I really felt like I really needed to move forward. I really wanted to advance, being considered as a leader. But really, I really didn't get the opportunity, but where others got. And one of the key reasons I found is that my communication was not up to par like a leader. Fellow Toastmasters, today I will share some of the tips on how to communicate like a leader, which builds on our Toastmasters journey. Toastmaster is all about communication. And we think, yeah, we learned communication in Toastmaster. So now we should be all leaders at work in our companies or any organization. But that doesn't translate very well. And I faced that in my career several times. So I hope that this is going to help you. Let's get into why communication is important in the first place for the leadership. First, communication is the key that really expands your influence. Compare two leaders. Compare a leader who is not very influential and compare a leader who is very influential. The big difference is that the leader who has got a lot more influence communicates well, articulates his messages, is extremely concise, precise, is really connected, understands the audience very well. Whereas the person who doesn't have influence he just speaks his mind. He doesn't really understand the emotions behind or really not being very concise. So and John C. Maxwell, the leadership guru of United States, is really known for writing more than 80 books on leadership. He says, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So imagine if communication expands influence, then you're already advancing in leadership journey. Next, the leadership is perceived much more mature and articulate, and you get points across to multiple cross-section if your communication is good. And lastly, it brings confidence. Imagine a leader going to stage and confidently, or in a meeting or in a discussion, being very confident, whether it's one-on-one, groups, or in stage. Communication is key. So there are three aspects I'm going to cover today as part of communicating like a leader. First, how do you articulate? Articulate well. Second, how do you become concise and assertive in your communication? Because those are the key that distinguishes one as an individual contributor versus a leader. And thirdly, presentation skills. A lot of these things you'll find common with what we go through in Toastmasters. It's just the application of Toastmaster knowledge in your workplace is what I'm touching on. That's what I'm covering. And this is based on my own personal experience. First, I think this you might have seen before. Communicating goes beyond words. And that's what we teach in Toastmasters as well. Did you know that only 7% of what we say is really matters in terms of impact on the audience or the listeners? Only 7%. 38% is about the way we say it. And 55% is about your body language, your emotions, facial expressions, what others see, how others see you. So if you really look at it, more than 90% is not about the words. It's not about what you say. And how much time do you really focus on really getting exact words right and getting the best possible sentences, paragraphs? Really speaking, those things matter, but really a lot more is impacted by how you say it and what others see you as. There is also an aspect here, which is about, on an average, people really speak about 160 words per minute. But the mind can absorb about 450 words per minute. So there are a lot of times where people really are looking for your body language and the way you're saying to really grasp it. So, okay, given that the words really mean whatever they mean, how do you articulate? How do you really get to the point? And basically, this is get to the point in Toastmaster journey. Based on my experience, simplifying and staying on message is one of the key things in articulating. Use simple, straightforward language. Don't use jargon. In my company, there's several high management people, they use a lot of jargons. Gone are the days of those kind of managers. Today is the days of authentic managers who are straight to the point, simple, stay on the message. Don't get too overboard about the choice of words. Second is engage your listeners. Engage into conversation. Don't just be one-sided. When you're as a leader, you're talking to others, you got to be engaging with them. Ask for opinions, ask for questions, ask questions yourself, solicit feedback. Third, don't jump into responding. Take time to respond. Have you seen some leaders who will be at work and you ask something, you ask a long question and they take a huge pause and you wonder what's going on? Did he hear that properly, or what's going on here? But actually they're thinking. And that's a hallmark of a leader. Think and respond. Yeah. Make sure you're understood. Many times you keep on saying something and you think, oh, you're making a huge, great point. But how do you know this is getting absorbed by the people who are listening to you? You got to keep making sure that you are understood. Develop your listening skills. Our mind is a scattered brain. How many times I myself get scattered, listening to them, I'm thinking something else, I'm busy, I've got doing multitasking. So listening is extremely important, especially for leader. Body language is extremely important. How you say it, how you really, that's what we teach in Toastmasters. So I don't have to tell you more. Maintain eye contact, respect your audience, and make communication a priority. That is also important for people going from technical ladder or technical knowledge into leadership. That's something I have seen. I was a technical manager myself. I was extremely I started with engineering. And when I became a leader, I really didn't give as much priority to communication. My work will speak for me, right? But actually, communication is extremely important. Work does a part, but really communication is the one that really seals the deal. Yeah. So I will probably skip this one because this is something we teach in Toastmaster all the time. Avoid judgment word because that doesn't really help in your articulation. Don't say you did this or you were there. Or that's wrong thing to say. That's being very direct and it doesn't really give a very good feeling by the leader. Also, don't repeat point once you're made. That is big part of concise. I'm coming to it. Avoid word like never do this or always do this. That probably is too authoritative. You got to let the flexibility be with the audience. So that was the part of articulating. The second part is concise communication. I've seen several times that we love to ramble. First time I was asked, what is the status of your project? I went up to the stage and I gave like a 5-minute speech on the status of the project. Later on, I got feedback. Man, that was a lot of detail. But is that what was expected? I said, well, you asked for status report, didn't you? Well, the detail of status report is not something that you decide. This is something that you have to really anticipate or what's the expectation of the audience. My audience was all higher management people, and they expected me to have very concise, precise status report. So concise communication is extremely important. So think before you speak. Focus. We will do a small exercise on this, so that please be ready. You all have to do something, okay? So in fact, just look at this, maybe take a screenshot if you have to, and we'll go into exercise right now. Okay. So here is a concise, here is a communication somebody did at work, okay? And please look at it and write down your own concise statement. How will you convert this into a concise statement? I'll give you maybe 3 minutes to think about this. So write a concise version of this. So you're done? Okay.
Yes.
Let me go to my version of this, and you can compare how it goes, right? So you can see that there is a lot of rambling here. It's like a lot of repetition. So I came up with this. It's like all he's talking about is work-life balance and what he does, right? So I just don't want does anyone want to volunteer what they came up with? That might be a good thing if we have time for it. One person, volunteer. Yeah, go ahead, Abhijeet.
I want to create a work-life balance so that I can be less stressful.
Wow. You came up even shorter than what I came up with. So, kudos to you. Kudos to you. That is good. That's good. Anyway, you get the idea, right? That when you are in work situation, particularly if the audience expectation is to be concise, if you're talking to management, to peers, you got to just get to the point. Thanks, Abhijeet. Thanks a lot. Next, one of the big problems I have seen, I faced this problem myself, is assertive communication. It may be because of cultural background that we come from or something. We are not very assertive. We think that if we assert, then it may be impolite or may be taken in a wrong way, and people will be, upset with me, whatever. But really speaking, assertive communication is a great tool you have to use as a leader. Remember, I'm not talking about aggressive communication. I'm talking about assertive communication. Assertive communication is about making your point known, stick to your point without really being overbearing, okay? Without displeasing anyone. And here are some tips that I have come up with my own experience for assertive communication. Direct eye contact. This is something we have to practice actually at work. Do you think that when you do direct eye contact when you're talking in your work, particularly the manager or management, how many of you feel like you do direct eye contact and respond? I have a show of hands. Okay, good. Some of you do, but you see, most of you don't. And this is extremely important, to have a direct eye contact so that you can really be perceived as assertive. Stance is also very important. If you're slouchy and not sure exactly what you're saying, or you keep your hands closed like this, then it's really not a very assertive stance. Tone of voice, facial expression, and this is just steps, so you may want to just keep it in your back pocket, but I can touch few of them. So always use positive language. Don't criticize. Don't get onto someone's nerves. Keep language extremely positive. Okay. Don't apologize for having your opinion. See, this is another thing I have observed, and I did it too myself. We have very good opinions and very strong opinion, but before we express, we apologize like profusely before we express it, so that the whole effect is gone. And somebody who's listening is like, well, he's still not sure about his opinion, so how am I supposed to even listen to it? So it's like we say, I'm very sorry, but I do not think, I just don't take me the wrong way. You're already apologizing. Just don't cut those things out. Straight to the point. This is your opinion. That's what shows assertive communication. Okay, let's go on. Last point is presentation skills. Now, we do teach a lot about speaking and getting to the point in Toastmaster, but we don't teach enough about presentation skills. And this becomes extremely important as a leader. Okay. Presentation skills is needed for your work meetings, in is giving status reports, the higher management, to the peers, to your group members, and even outside work. In Toastmasters, or if you go to civic organization, if you're in some kind of a social gathering, you may have to do presentations. So there should be a flow that you have to plan. First, you have to start with the planning. Then you have to really have a flow in the presentation, and you have to use some techniques. When you're planning a presentation, first thing is to determine its purpose, right? What is the presentation for? Who is the audience? What kind of space do I have? Is it really a cramped space? Or is it really, you have something, what daytime, organization, all of that you need to have first planned it. Then your presentation needs to have a flow. How do you open? Just like speeches, presentations need to have a, first is to build rapport. When you come to presentation, first thing you need to do is not start with your just right away your topic. First build some rapport. Who is the audience, and if it is like, talk about weather, or maybe start with a joke or something, we build rapport. Okay, people will ease up a little bit, right? And then you start opening, completing, and concluding. And the techniques that we use is very similar to what we use in Toastmaster, but they're extremely important. I have gone through presentations which are extremely monotonous. They, there is not much of vocal variety, particularly in technical presentations. People think that all matters is the technical aspect of things. Not so, because how you remember, how you say it and how people see you are really more important than what the words are. So vocal variety, body language apply to your work meeting presentations as much as it applies to our Toastmaster speeches, right? So I have got a few tips for presentation. By the way, when I covered presentation, please also bear in mind that virtual meetings bring another level of complications in this exhibiting these skills. So when you're presenting virtually, you have to also think about, because you're not really directly connected to audience, they're not sitting right in front of you. So you have to make sure that your camera level is at the right level. You have to make sure that you are dressed properly, or you got the right space. You got to make sure that there is no distraction at the background. There's no noise at the background. You make sure that you have the right, screen behind you, so that you can, and also make sure that your PowerPoint presentations are really being shared where really people can see what I really want to say, and so that it's not like there is a confusion going around. So virtual meetings bring a new level of complication in presentation that you got to be aware of. Here are some tips based on my own journey of presentation. Okay. First 2 to 3 minutes are the most important for presentation. That's where you really connect with the audience. If you miss that boat, people will be turned off. You think you have a great presentation, 30-minute presentation, but first 2-3 minutes, if you don't really connect, then you lost it. So whatever could be, what is the common interest of the audience that you see? That common interest is what you need to bring up in the first 2 to 3 minutes. If they're all about, they're all family people, then maybe crack a family joke or something like that. That's something I have used very often, or something. Or if you have all the audience is more political, then you can talk about politics. If nothing else, talk about weather, but something that connects you to our audience. Yeah. Second is show your passion through movement and gestures. We always tend to stand more in one place and do the presentation, but actually your movement and really helps. So don't pace too hard, because that's going to distract. But make sure that your movements are smooth. Posture, standing up straight, okay. Showing confidence. Remember, talk about assertive as well. In the stance is very important. You got to, don't slouch or don't be like this. It's like you're not showing interest, and maybe then you won't infuse interest in audience either if you're not interested, right? You're not seen as interested. If your hands are really your friends in presentation. If you're nervous, control your hands. Your nervousness shows up through hands. It's like if your hands, so let me go back a little bit. Your hands are like shaking or doing something which is really, that shows that you're really not prepared or you're being nervous. So keep hands on the side as much as possible. Sorry, I don't know, probably you can't see it, but something on the side or in the front with this clasp right in front. So that in fact works the best actually, having the hand clasped on palm on top of each other, just in the front. And legs, whenever, by the way, this thing is my own weakness. So I have to tell you this, my legs don't stay grounded. I do this. Actually, I got a lot of feedback at many places that, hey, you were great, but why was your body shaking so much? It's like this, I'm like, I'm on my own world or something. I don't know why. This is my natural instinct. So keep leg grounded, meaning the body should be straight. My leg is grounded, but my body is not grounded. So this it doesn't show nervousness from my side. This maybe my natural instinct is that way, but people can see it as me as nervous. So it doesn't matter what I think. I think I was confident, but people think that I was nervous. So that was not very good. So you don't keep the body grounded. Breathe nice, and breathing is a great exercise for any controlling. And by the way, all of these things is also helpful in your speeches, right? So, okay, sorry, I'm not running out. So breathing will give you nice relaxation. So let's, I will end with this, that communicating like a leader is extremely important. And there are 3 aspects I covered: articulating, being concise, being assertive, and having great presentation skills. If you want to learn a little bit more, I have got a complimentary webinar coming this Monday. It's called Crossing the Leadership Chasm. It's at 6 p.m. Pacific. And I have given the link for registration, and I will put it in the chat window as well. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. One thing that stood out for me is pausing before communicating. And I've realized that I can do a better job with that. So thank you for sharing the steps for taking our communication to the next level and be a leader. Everyone, please take a minute to give feedback to Ramesh. Thank you so much, everyone. Before we move on, let me introduce our guests. Ruru, how did you heard about us?
Hi, good morning. I was not expecting that. Okay, hi, good morning. I have joined this meeting at least for 2 to 3 weekends now. I have been speaking and introduced by Frederica Alexander Durant. She is sort of like my Toastmaster mentor at this point. I recently joined Toastmasters, virtual Toastmasters, about 6 months ago. So just joining these leadership calls are definitely helping and building my my skill set in becoming, a better communicator. I am a leader. I am in a leadership role at my position as well. So just listening to this informative presentation from Ramesh definitely has assisted, and I have taken out notes, and I do have some questions. So I do appreciate it. And again, thank you, Alex, for introducing me to this club.
Ruru, we are going to have a question and answer session after the meeting gets over. So please stay tuned. Thank you for joining us. Sharon, how did you heard about us? Smith?
Good morning to everyone. Well, it's morning on my side. I would have learned when I received an invitation from AD Frederica. I came in a bit late, but I did receive some helpful tips that would help me with my presentation. So I'm happy to be here. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to our exciting session, the pitch. Today, we have our Vice President of Education giving a pitch on memory of the future. Technology is a key driver for today's world. Not only does it shape our lives, but it also evolves. To better make use of it, to our benefit, we need enablers who are well-versed in technology and the basic principle of that particular technology. It also has to be competent in its implementation. Presenting for us today is the CTO of Dynamic Solutions, Shardul Raut-Murray, sharing his view of the memory of the future. Shardul Raut-Murray.
Thank you, Abhijeet. I hope to share with you all my screen in just a moment. Yes. Technology. The domain that we are in right now, the era where everything's connected. And literally, not just humans, but also the things that we use, be it our laptops, our mobiles, our banks, our vehicles, whatnot. And this is entirely due to the Internet of Things, where we are connecting with our smartwatches, the biggest and the most complex of all equipment. When it comes to electronics, the smallest is, again, the smartwatch, with which we can access emails, calendars, music, and whatnot. That sort of electronics is also then visible in our automotives, where we have Wi-Fi systems, where we can see the GPS, where we can track our own location at real time. But what is this entire technology enabled by? The Internet of Things stands on something. It's not just Wi-Fi. It's not just that we have better electronics. We also have better memories. Memories that can store our fingerprints, memories can store our data, memories that know our each and everything. Because when you sit inside the car and you insert your key fob, the entire setup of the car adjusts as you liked it, because that is stored in a memory. And the kind of memories that we have enabled a lot of applications. They can be literally from our CPUs, our memories, the servers on which the entire internet is based, to the small phones that we had in the beginning, to the smartphones, the iPhones and Galaxies that we use today, the hard drives, the GPS cards, the ID cards, which we can use to identify ourselves, where we store our biometric. All is enabled through memory. And the memory has seen evolution. It has seen progression from the 1940s, starting off with RAMs, then PROM, then SRAM, DRAMs, Flash, to now, where we are in 2020. And the latest technology that we are using is still from 1989. Because the current memory, Flash, is slow and power hungry. So when we think of memories for our next generation, we need to think about the future of next generation memory, which are small size, so that we can make more and more electronics fit into it. We need a fast speed of operation. We are talking already about 5G internet. We are talking about 6G internet. All this can only be enabled if the memory can process data faster. And the last of all, low power consumption. We want a smartwatch to last the entire day. And preferably, if the next day it also works, even better. But we cannot tolerate a smartwatch that gets depleted in half a day. These features are the key that are required in the next generation of memory. Presenting the dynamic solutions, memory of the future. We are the enablers that help you interpret or integrate the next generation of memory, which is ReRAM technology, into your systems. ReRAM is for resistive RAM technology. And the features are literally, it is small, it is area compact, it is fast, which is what we need. The market for DRAM at the moment has been exponentially growing, starting from 2014, when it became feasible to use that technology, and the forecast to 2024, we will be going from 410 million USD to more than $20 billion. And in this time frame, what do we require is services that enable us to use that ReRAM technology, especially for our applications. The services that we provide at Dynamic Solutions are platform integration that can help you incorporate the ReRAM technology, the new futuristic memory, into your system. We give you technical road mapping that enables you to develop a vision how the memory will evolve in the future and how you can be better prepared to use it to your advantage. IP development. IP is intellectual property. To use that technology, you also need to be aware what are the specifics. There our competence comes into role. And the last of all, collaborative research ventures. You cannot get the futuristic memory you want without investing in the research. And just so that we can enable all these applications and provide a competitive platform, we have done a survey of the market concentration of where the resistive RAM market is. On the right on the image to your right, you can see on the spectrum from green to red, where green is fragmented. We have high scope of development and there are no dominant players. Whereas red stands for consolidated market situation, where you just have 1 to 3 market players. Right now, in the resistive RAM market, it is centered nicely at the middle, where we have the prospect to actually create a huge impact. And the major players in this technology, onto your left, are Rambus INC, Panasonic Corporation, Fujitsu, Crossbar INC. And let me tell you, all these are the companies that we are partnering with. Starting off with Rambus, Panasonic, Fujitsu, other semiconductor giants that enable technology, NXP Semiconductors, Texas, TSMC, which actually fabricates those chips, and educational institutions like TU, Delft, Stanford, from all across the globe. Because only the synergy between application and research can be grown. To enable that, we ask from our investors a mere sum of $1 million. That starts off with $7,000 as angel round and $3,000 from the other other investors. With a projected revenue growth in 12 months' time, doubling the investment to 2.5 million. You know, given that it's a technology matter and people, according to science of memory, you are likely to forget 90% of what I present today. So I got rid of the 90%, and I'm just going to share one slide for you to focus on. If you want to engage and use the memory of the future, if you want to have better system integration and grow in the field of technology, contact Disruptive Solutions. I am 𝐔𝐬𝐚𝐥, Chief Technology Officer. You can contact me at shardul.r@ds.com. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Shardul. Thank you for that pitch. It's indeed, because memory is the future. We need smaller memories and less power consumption. So thank you for sharing that presentation with us. Next, we move on to our table topics. Let me introduce our Vice President of Public Relations, Mr. Tosin. Tosin, it's all you, sir. You're muted, Tosin.
Hello, everyone. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to our club. So today we have table topics, and the theme is communication in leadership. Communication in leadership. So what I have are a couple of words which I believe are qualities of quality communication, which is effective communication, which is needed in leadership. So I'm going to be asking for volunteers. I already have one at the moment. So I'll give you just one word and you tell me why you think that word is relevant, or even just an experience with that quality. So our first volunteer this afternoon is Toastmaster 𝐔𝐬𝐚𝐥. Toastmaster 𝐔𝐬𝐚𝐥, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So we have 7 numbers 1 to 7. Choose one.
2, please.
2. So your word is personalization. Personalization.
Thank you, Table Topics Master. Personalization. Personalization. That is very important because every human being is unique and not 2 humans are the same. So that means the way the leader communicates depends on that leader's personality. And at the same time, it is important to personalize the message that you give to the people that is following you. Because maybe some people need it direct message, like, they just want to hear it directly, concise. Some, they want indirect message. So, and for others, you have to see how it is. So personalization is very important, mainly because every people have different things going on in their life. And it's very important to understand where they're coming from before communicating anything. So that is a skill that I'm learning as well, where I am learning how to share as a leader any message or any thought I have by putting myself in that person's shoe and also understanding a little bit of that person's background so that I can communicate or package my message in such a way that that person can get it. So I always, I'm trying now to personalize the way I communicate, and that requires connecting with that person and understanding and learning more. And I feel it takes a little bit longer than I thought. But yes, personalization goes a long way for leaders so they don't burn out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Toastmaster 𝐔𝐬𝐚𝐥. Personalization, the importance of tailoring our messages to people because people are different. Thank you once again. So we'll be having distinguished Toastmaster Abhijeet next. Distinguished Toastmaster Abhijeet, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes.
All right. So you have questions 1 to 7. Number 2 has been taken. 1. Number 1 is clarity. Clarity.
I started a new job 3 months ago as a program manager. Initially, when I was writing my minutes, I used to write very long minutes. And one thing my boss, Manny, said, you can write the same thing in very succinct and clear language. And he said, if you want to become a good program manager, start writing minutes in very short sentences. That was my changing point. Now, when I write my minutes I'm working on 3 projects. When I'm writing my minutes, I write it in such a small bullet points that they are highlighted immediately. And it's only because of Manny. He took the time to ask me to be clear and have clarity in my communication. Because as a program manager, clarity is very, very important. So I'm glad I had that experience, that learning from Manny. And I have decided to apply that in my other jobs also. Back to you, Sir Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, DTM Abhijeet. You spoke on clarity. And I like how in such a short amount of time, you were able to tell us so much. Thank you very much. Our next volunteer is going to be DTM Raghu. DTM Raghu, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. How are you doing, DTM Raghu?
Good. How are you, friend?
All right. Great. So we have questions 1 to 7. Numbers 1 and 2 have been taken.
You can select your number for me.
Oh, okay. I would like you to take a go at number 5, and that's inspiration. Inspiration.
Inspiration. I believe you can find the inspiration in anything and everything. The smile of a child. The way that the woman in your house works round the clock, irrespective of our responsibility at office, at home, and anything. There you find your inspiration, isn't it? The way that you see your parents work for you selflessly. There one can find inspiration. I do find my inspiration there. I found my inspiration from the way that my mother was so empathetic towards everyone and anyone, that ensured that I was always empathetic. The way that my father fought and took the position in a very short time, irrespective of all the troubles, is where I found my inspiration. I found my inspiration in my wife, who has done a lot of work, and irrespective of challenges she faces every day, and she stands there as a strong pillar of the house. It depends upon you. Are you able to see, open your eyes, and see the truth or not? If you are just blinded by just your belief system, you cannot see that. So I would say, open your eyes, look at things, and ensure that you can find your inspiration in your mentors, in the children, or anything and everything. Look at the earth, irrespective of any situation, it just ensure to be stable and give us a place to live on. Topic master.
Thank you, DTM Raghu. I love the reminder that we can find inspiration in anything and everything. Thank you once again. And our last volunteer this afternoon, we'll be having Toastmaster Ravi. Toastmaster Ravi, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so questions 1 to 7, 1, 2, and 5 have been taken. 7, authenticity. Authenticity.
Authenticity. One of the way that you spread your influence is being authentic in our speeches and actions. If we are not authentic, you can't tell good stories and you can't get connected to the audience. It's very tough, extremely tough to fake, if you ask me. And it's very important to pick your speeches, pick your stories authentically. Use your own stories or a modification of a slide story that you already have, and a mixture of couple of stories. Yeah, we see that people don't, we assume that people don't see many things, but if you're not authentic, the thing comes through. Thank you. Back to you, tabletop master.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Ravi, for emphasizing the need for authenticity. And that draws us to a close of our table topic segment. Thank you to everyone who volunteered. I did pick up a thing or two from each and every one of you, so thank you very much. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to the Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Tosin. Those words were very powerful. It made me think, and each and every word, if we use them properly, we can become good leaders. So thank you for an engaging table topics. Let's move on to our evaluation section. Our first evaluator is none other than Raghunatha Raju, evaluating Ramesh's speech. Raghunatha.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters from around the different corners of the world. 𝐔𝐬𝐬𝐷 said, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. But that has already put a question in my mind. How do leaders talk? But if you look at great leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. or Mahatma Gandhi, or recent leader like Obama, they were able to move masses, isn't it? It is the way that they speak like a leader or communicate like a leader. What a great topic you have got on this plate, DTM Ramesh. Thank you for gracing us today with tips on how we can improve ourselves to become a leader or communicate like a leader. As you rightly mentioned, many professionals fall into the trap, including me at a stage, where we think that it is not necessary to communicate because our work or our technical skills we speak, but that's not what it happens. It is our communication which will speak about the technical skills. So coming to commendations in your speech, one, I love the way you started speaking, connecting with your life and how you struggle initially to actually communicate like a leader. Two, I love the way you have brought three aspects of communicating like a leader: articulating, being concise and assertive, three, presentation skills. And you also deep dive into each and every bit of it, which is a great thing. And I really love, there's so many points that I could take back to my professional life today. Three, you also gave other tips like assertive communication, and also you placed with main presentation tips, how we can do better in presentation. Now coming to recommendations. I felt that you have repeated the word really several times, which was not necessary. So you can improve on that. Two, I felt that you could have planned a presentation for 18 to 20 minutes. Also that because you had to rush in the end, you gave an exercise for concise communication. I felt you could have done this for other aspects like articulation and presentation also, which would have made your presentation much better and spicy. Three, I felt that there was a lot of text in presentation. So we were attracted to the text more than sometimes than your speech. So if you add more pictures instead of text, it will ensure that we are more paying attention to your speech. So four, also I felt that you have great if you have mentioned what are the pitfalls and each aspect that we normally fall into, and it will help us to see how we can improve ourselves from those, not falling into those pitfalls. To summarize, a great presentation, great aspect that we all need to improve on to this. Just with these little improvements, you can take it to the next level. Thank you for blessing us again, and over to Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Thank you for helping us to take our presentations to the next level. We'll now move on to pitch evaluation. Let me call upon Miriam to evaluate Shardul's pitch. Miriam?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day. Toastmaster Shadu, thank you for that pitch on memory of the future. I was intrigued by the topic. It got me wondering, what are you going to be talking about? Your presentation was a very technical presentation because you were talking about the Internet of Things. You highlighted the challenges that we are going to face in the future in terms of managing our data, in terms of our memory. And you said there are 3 things that efficient technology should have. And those 3 things are small size, speed of operation, and low power consumption. And as dynamic solutions, you are in a position to provide such solutions to the consumers. So thank you for highlighting the problem and for highlighting that we have the solution to the problem. You also showed us how there is the demand for this technology using a chart whereby we have seen the growth year on year on the demand of the technology. I would want to, I know this is a technical presentation, but do not assume that everyone is technical. I would have wanted you to, the presentation to be very, very simplified for the sake of some of us, and avoid using technical jargon from you as a presenter, because you are already in the field. Something like platform integration, IP development might sound simple because that's your field. But to the rest of us, we are just wondering, what are you talking about? So try by all means to just simplify it so that we understand what you are talking about. You asked for $1 million US from the investors, but I did not hear you explain how you're going to spend that $1 million. I did not hear you explaining what's in it for the investor. If I give you my $1 million, in case if I missed it, but if I give you my $1 million, what is my return on my investment? And that should have been your first, your introduction, to say, I'm seeking $1 million in return for a certain percentage equity in our business, so that before you go into the detail of your presentation, people know how much you are looking for and how much they are going to get from their investment. Otherwise, thank you for that interesting presentation. Over to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you so much. I enjoyed your feedback. Let me call upon our next pitch evaluator, Frederica Alexander Durant. Frederica, it's all you.
Thank you, Shadul. I saw confident Shadul this time delivering his elevator pitch. Memory of the future. Shadul, you said I would remember 90% of it, and I really did. But what I liked, you mentioned disruptive solutions from the beginning. You started by introducing us to that name of that company, and you went on to tell us about the Internet of Things. Why is it important that we look at disruptive solutions? And that was good for me. You went on to talk about how we use it in our automobiles, like the GPS, and I love that, especially when I visit the United States. Our smartwatches, which I'm in love with, I get my emails there, I can get my phone calls there. I like that. You also spoke about the different memories that we use, including the nano, the SIM card, and therefore I could understand, because I will tell you for sure, it was not a simple speech for me to digest. With all the jargons, but the little bit that I took in, you had me captivated, yes. You also captured my interest when you were looking at the future for disruptive solutions. And that is increasing the speed of everything, which we really need. I like that. You went on to talk about your partners, and I could identify with companies like Panasonic. Then you also listed your key players and said you are the middle. Now, as an investor, I do have some money to invest, but you did not tell me how much return I will be getting back on my investment. But from the way you delivered on disruptive solutions, I am sold. But I can tell you, we have to speak about my returns before I put in my money there. So Toastmaster Shadow, you did a great job. I can say you convinced me that disruptive solutions is the way for me to go. But let us talk a little further because I want to be an angel investor. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
We call upon our domain garden, our third pitch evaluator. Domain, it's all you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster of the day. Shardul, first off, thank you for your presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I should like to evaluate it from a more technical standpoint in terms of structure and also from an industry standpoint, because I know a little bit about memory, as it were. First off, I really liked your slides. They were very well put together, very organized. Obviously, you spent a lot of time thinking about how you wanted to put things together, and I liked those very much. You had structure throughout your presentation. You listed a problem, or you posited a problem, then you posted a solution, and then how you would be involved in that. The issue being that of memory and, you know, size, speed, power consumption. You even gave us a brief history lesson in the whole, you know, field. Then you posited the solution, that of ReRAM, and you then went into how your company, Dynamic Solutions, would be integrating this, you know, platform integration, technical road mapping, IP development, collaborative research ventures. I really like that. My one recommendation, and it's kind of a bit of a concern, you know, you will be pitching, if you're giving a pitch such as this, you'll be doing it to investors who would have some idea of the industry. I mean, most people who invest would invest in things they know a little bit about. So it has been in the news recently and very well documented, and there's a general consensus that there is a chip shortage in the world. Now, your entire industry is based on this. And if there's a huge industry problem, then how is that going to affect you? If, as an investor, that would be something I'll be looking out for. And if I didn't get it in your pitch, it is a question I would be asking afterwards. However, here's the stitch. You had a brilliant opportunity to address this because one of your partners actually manufactures chips, and that cuts out the middleman. That solves the problem right there, and that would have put your investors at ease. So that's definitely something I would recommend, you know, mentioning to your investors. I like that you gave a specific sum that you were looking for and a projected profit that you'd be getting. Again, I would agree with Miriam in that give us a little bit more detail as to spending and how our investors would be benefiting from it. I, however, overall thought your presentation was brilliant. It's really something I'm interested in, and I'm looking forward to the next generation of memory. Shardul, thank you very much for presenting.
Thank you so much, Domain. Thank you for helping us to make our pitches better. Let me call upon our fantastic timer to share the timer's report. Jamal.
Thank you, Abhijeet. Today, when it comes to timing, I timed the speakers, table topic responses, as well as evaluation. The speakers went over time. Ramesh, 23 minutes, 45 seconds. Shardul, 7 minutes, 47. Table topics, Jamal, 2 minutes. Abhijeet, 1 minute 13, Raghu 1 minute 53, Ravi 1 minute. Evaluation, Raghu 3 minutes 5, Miriam 307, Federica 211, and Domain 205. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamal. Let me call upon our guests. Ruru, you had some questions for Ramesh. This is the time you can ask them.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So there were not necessarily questions, but I am interested, just simply providing feedback in terms of what I absorbed, just based on my current role in general. But my main question was to ask about the upcoming panel he discussed, crossing the leadership parcel. I can't remember exactly what the topic is, but I'm interested in at least being on that call just to be a listening ear to get some more insight. what, if that's possible. Going back to his speech in terms of how to communicate as a leader, I just felt it was extremely informative, being that I am in a leadership role at my job, and just the breakdown of all the required skill set was definitely beneficial, and I will continue to. It will be of continuous assistance in my role. Recently, which is why this was so important to me. Recently, I did experience something similar in my position where I battled with assertive versus aggressive communication. And I'm going to spend some more time on that on my own to do some additional research to make sure that that fine line is not always, that fine line is not crossed. So that's just my feedback and questions I had based on his presentation. Thanks.
Ramesh, you want to answer her?
Yeah, so the event that I talked about is a complimentary webinar. So it's a 1 hour webinar. It's on Monday, and I did post the link on the chat, and I'll post it again. So you feel free to register through that link, and you'll be able to attend. Ruru, I'll be very happy to have you there. And for any other question that you may have, feel free to contact me. I'm available through email or phone.
Maybe Ramesh, you can give a future presentation, assertive versus aggressive leader.
Yeah, that will be fantastic. I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheryl, how was your experience? Smith?
Well,
Yeah. I think Cheryl cannot hear us. Let me call upon our president. Madam President, it's all you.
One minute, Abhijeet.
You muted yourself, Frederica.
Did. Sorry about that. Thank you everyone for a great meeting. We saw the importance of communication in leadership, and without excellent leadership, you're missing that part of communications, because leadership is influence, as we heard from Ramesh and John Maxwell. So we need to take that as a takeaway. Great speech, Ramesh. I love everything that went on today. All the functionaries did a good job. The speeches were good. The pitch evaluation was very good, Shadul. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can see the growth. And if anybody have anything to say at this time, they can go right ahead.
Frederica,